American motorboat owners can be counted in hundreds of thousands, and the number is growing yearly. All up and down our great system of inland waterways and in countless coves and harbors of our vast coastal areas, the boating season brings small craft of many types. Some skippers like their boating fast, a mile a minute plus, with thrills to match. Others seek only a pleasant outing with their families or friends. But it all adds up to a mounting toll of accidents, many serious, some tragic, nearly all avoidable. To make this great and growing sport safer, Congress has passed certain laws and charged the Coast Guard with their enforcement. Regulations based on these laws are published in a pamphlet known as the Motorboat Regulations. You can obtain copies from any Coast Guard district office. The Motorboat Regulations provide certain minimums of safety for a small craft. A motorboat under these regulations includes any vessel propelled by machinery and not more than 65 feet in length, except tugboats and towboats propelled by steam. Unless documented by the customs, motorboats equipped with permanently installed motors must be numbered, except public vessels and motor lifeboats on inspected vessels. Since the minimums of safety equipment required on your boat are governed by its size, the regulations divide motorboats into 4 classes. Class A, less than 16 feet in length. Class 1, 16 feet or over and less than 26 feet. Class 2, 26 feet or over and less than 40 feet. Class 3, 40 feet or over and not more than 65 feet. If your boat is over 16 feet in length, equipped with a detachable motor, it must be numbered. Only the Coast Guard can assign numbers to motorboats. Here's a new owner making application for a set. The procedure is simple, since a certificate of award of number is not issued as a license or permit, but rather for purposes of identification. No physical or mental examination is required. All that's needed is a bill of sale or other acceptable evidence of ownership. Satisfied on this score, the clerk completes the certificate, typing in name of boat, its dimensions, engine number, name and address of owner, builder, etc. The certificate then goes to the officer in charge of the motorboat registration unit. And when he has checked it against the papers, his signature makes it valid. That's all there is to getting a set of numbers. As the owner accepts the numbers and his certificate, he must also accept the responsibility that goes with them. Of course, there's plenty of satisfaction. For now, this skipper can get out and enjoy his boat. He assures the clerk his motto will be safety first. This is the new skipper's boat, a Class 2. The law requires that his certificate be kept on board at all times, and that the awarded number be painted on or attached to each bow in block characters of good proportion not less than 3 inches in height. Proper numbering is only one of the legal requirements for your boat. The regulations cover them in detail, and the Motorboat Act, which they implement, is summarized in the Pilot Rules, Bible of all good boatmen. In the interest of public safety, the Coast Guard trains and sends out boarding parties to see that boat owners and operators obey the law. In general, motorboats bearing this decal are not boarded, since it is evidence that they have been okayed by courtesy examiners of the Coast Guard Auxiliary. As motorboats are liable for required equipment only when underway, they are usually boarded either during operation or when they have just returned from a run. If you own a non-commercial boat, you need not be around when it is examined. You can even let your friends take it out alone. But you are responsible for its equipment, and failure to meet the minimum requirements can bring severe penalties. What the Coast Guard wants, however, is not revenues from violations, but dividends from safety. Let's see how this new skipper will make out. Courtesy is an unfailing rule of boarding officers, though not at the expense of duty. All violations, no matter how minor, must be reported. Before proceeding with a general examination, the certificate of award of number must be checked. The boarding officer will verify that the certificate is made out in the name of the present owner, and that its number corresponds with the one on the bows. This examiner and his assistant, intent on doing a good job, are taking no chances. Yes, the number checks. Now for a look at the skipper's equipment. Life preservers are examined with great care. The regulations state that you must have one of approved type for each person on board, and boats with detachable motors aren't exempt from this rule. The cork jacket, such as those being examined here, is legal for all classes of motorboats if in good condition. But when the canvas cover is old and rotten, it's obviously more apt to take than save a life. So the examiner rightly rejects it, and the owner will have to get a new one. This type, the cork ring buoy, is also legal for all classes of motorboats, if in good condition. The buoyant cushion, though legal for all except Class 3 boats, makes a better pillow than a life preserver. When examining the engine compartments of motorboats, boarding officers give particular attention to flame arresters. The regulations provide that there be one such approved device on each carburetor. Accumulations of gases in bilges can lead only to trouble. Your engine and fuel tank compartments, therefore, must have at least 2 ventilators fitted with cowls or their equivalent for removing these dangerous gases. What can happen when that regulation is violated? Well, take this skipper, for instance. He'd planned a pleasant little fishing trip with his friends. Topside, all was in order, and the boat handling smoothly. But below, where trouble usually starts, things were far from right. That leaking fuel line had filled the bilge with gasoline vapor, an explosive so powerful that a mere half pint of it is equal to 5 pounds of dynamite, much more than enough to blow up their boat. When the mixture reached the flash point, one more spark was enough to touch it off. Had the skipper complied with the minimum safety requirements for his boat, this would not have happened. Next to an explosion, fire is the worst hazard on your boat, and the best insurance against it is adequate extinguisher protection, such as the fixed carbon dioxide system. The equipment must be properly installed and maintained. Boarding officers are required to verify that it is of approved type and capacity, and that its controls are readily accessible for quick use in case of emergency. Motorboats of the two larger classes having this system must also carry portable fire extinguishers of approved type and capacity. One for those of Class 2, two for those of Class 3. When not equipped with the CO2 system, boats of Class 1, such as this, and also boats of Class A, must have on board one portable fire extinguisher. Boats of Class 2, 2, and boats of Class 3, 3. Boarding officers must ascertain that all such extinguishers are of approved type and capacity and in good working order. The laws and regulations prescribe that motorboats of classes 2 and 3 shall carry side lights, red to port and green to starboard, showing from right ahead to 2 points abaft each beam. They shall carry a white bow light on or near the stem, showing through 10 points on either side, an arc double that of a port or starboard light. Motorboats of classes 2 and 3 shall also carry a white stern light, higher than the bow light and showing all around the horizon. If a light is obscured, it constitutes a violation, since it is not fully visible. A dinghy is a good thing to have on board, though not required equipment. But our skipper must either move it or mount his stern light on a higher staff. For motorboats of classes A and 1, the laws and regulations prescribe a simpler arrangement of running lights. All you need is a white stern light and a combination port and starboard light on the bow, though angles of visibility are the same as for the larger classes. Motorboats of Class 2 must have on board a hand or power-operated sound-producing device capable of giving a blast of 2 seconds or more duration, and audible at least 1 mile. That one meets the test. But our skipper is playing safe. Here's his ace in the hole. For Class 1 boats, this much less noisy little item will do. Class A boats don't need any. Only power-operated sound-producing devices are legal for Class 3 boats. They must be at least as efficient as those on Class 2 boats. Motorboats of Classes 2 and 3 must have on board a bell that will sound a full, round tone. Now let's consider motorboats carrying passengers for hire. To operate such craft, a motorboat operator's license is required. This commercial boat owner is applying for one to the Office of Marine Licenses. His first step is to present character letters to the license clerk. When these have been examined and found to be in good order, the clerk gives him a sheet of instructions and a license application to fill out. Citizenship, military service, employment record, service on vessels. These are among the questions to be answered by the applicant. When the form is completed, the clerk checks it for omissions or evasions. The applicant then goes before the officer in charge, who takes his oath that the statements he has made are correct in every detail. The clerk now sends the applicant for a physical examination. His body must be sound, since the lives of his passengers may depend upon it. His eyesight must be keen, his color sense normal. Having passed his physical, the applicant is taken before the license examiner and questioned on his ability to operate a commercial motorboat. These questions are brief but to the point. They probe the applicant's knowledge of the motorboat regulations, the pilot rules, seamanship, engine maintenance, firefighting, life-saving, first aid, and related subjects. This applicant has the right answers and is of good character, so his papers are stamped, approved, and he is issued a license to operate motorboats carrying passengers for hire. This license, the examiner informs him, is valid for a term of 5 years, but can be suspended or revoked for negligence or inattention to duty, or for violating the motorboat regulations. That won't happen to him, this skipper is sure. He's in business now, and he's going to play it safe. This is the skipper's boat, a Class 3 type, 12 net tons to be exact, and 42 feet in length. It's almost as new as his license, which he proudly posts on the cabin bulkhead. From now on, it's up to him. The Blue Albatross has been out with a fishing party and is about to dock. Since the boarding officers have observed her underway, the skipper will be liable for her required equipment. Instead of numbers, her name is on the bows. That's because commercial motorboats of 5 net tons or more are not numbered, but documented by the collector of customs. However, they must have on board all equipment prescribed by the Motorboat Act and regulations, all in good working order. The boarding officers note that her name and hailing port are properly displayed. Permission to board is requested, courteously as always, and granted. For a skipper with full legal equipment has nothing to fear. When examining documented vessels, boarding officers first ask for the owner's marine document. They are required to verify that it is made out in the name of the present owner and hasn't expired. Its official number must be carved on the main beam. The license, too, is carefully checked. The name on it must be that of the present operator, and its date must be within 5 years of the date of issue. Engine compartments are given a thorough going over to see that flame arresters are of approved type, properly installed. To see that vibration hasn't shaken anything loose, and that bilges are efficiently ventilated. The laws and regulations require commercial craft, like pleasure boats, to have enough life preservers for all persons on board. They must be of approved type, properly stamped and dated. It is mandatory that motorboats carrying passengers for hire have on board, in addition to 1 preserver per person, an added number suitable for children, at least 10% of the total. This skipper has them stowed on the port side. Like any Class 3 boat, this one must carry 3 fire extinguishers. Here we see 2 of the 1-quart carbon TET type. The examiner suspects this one is defective. He's right. An extinguisher isn't legal equipment unless it works properly. So it looks as if our skipper is going to get tagged with a violation. But no, for he has this big carbon dioxide extinguisher of approved type, allowed to count for 2 smaller ones on Class 3 boats. So there's no violation. Motorboats carrying passengers for hire must show the same lights as pleasure craft of the same classes, and boarding officers are required to examine them with particular care. These party boats often leave their docks before dawn, return after sunset, and upon the proper functioning of their lights may depend the safety of all on board. Whistles are required on such boats. They must be of the right type, well secured, and able to produce the proper blast. A bell must be carried, as on pleasure craft of classes 2 and 3, and is tested for effective tone. That completes the examination. The Blue Albatross has on board the required equipment, all in good order. Also, some important optional items, such as a compass, essential for accurate navigation, and a radio phone to maintain contact with ships and shore points, and in emergencies, to call the Coast Guard. Party fishing would be much safer, and there would be far fewer rescue calls if all commercial boats were as well equipped as this one. But many of them, and many pleasure craft, are not. So to make this great and growing sport safer for American motorboat owners, large numbers of boats must be examined each year. The Coast Guard asks owners and operators to bear in mind that the main object of the boarding program is not to exact penalties for violations, but to promote safety on the water.